I know you guys have been waiting for this one for a long while, but wait no more because it's finally here. Time to showcase the brand new Numemon X and Monzaemon X deck. Alright, starting off with Digi-Egg cards, we've got the 4 copies of Numemon, which is our main draw power egg. We want to have our Floodgate rookies usually stay in the board as long as possible before we make the attack. Therefore, having them stick on the board whenever we Digivolve another Digimon, we get to utilize this effect to get more draw power and get more access to cards, which is always fantastic. Now, we do tend to push up a lot with our rookies and hatch multiple eggs. Therefore, I'm actually running a 5th copy of a Digi-Egg card, which is going to be the Tokomon from EX5. Similar concept, giving you a little bit more draw power as well, and I definitely recommend running 5 eggs in this particular deck. Moving into our rookies, we got the 4 copies of Ukomon, just mainly to Digivolve in the breeding area. When we push out, we get to hatch as we turbo for our eggs, which really compensates and gives us what the Rookie Rush components of this deck really has. Then rounding off for the black rookies, 4 copies of Chumon to Floodgate against the opponent's memory, and 4 copies of Chikurimon to stop opponents from reducing play costs. Essentially, you're trying to Floodgate, have these guys stay on board as long as possible before you make your final swings and you go for your attacks. That's really the main idea when it comes to rookies, and that basically wraps them up. So now let's talk about our level 4s. The first one I like to showcase you guys is the 4 copies of Garurumon from BT11. Mainly, its name is also treated as Numemon, so it's going to have a lot of synergy for this deck, but it's also a main other source of draw power. But we also get to set up our Numemons in our trash via its effect, so then we can potentially play it back from the trash later on, whichever we choose to desire, depending on the situation and as the game goes. Then we got 3 copies of the RB01 Numemon. Other than draw power, this is going to be our main dedicated searcher with its on deletion effect. And then we also get the inheritable of being able to have blocker on the board for a little bit of control aspect, which is always really nice. Next, then I'm playing 2 copies of the BT14 Numemon, which lets us bring Satsuki underneath from our hand once it's on play or when Digivolve, so we can effectively get a cheat out a Tamer for free, which is really great value always. And of course, with its inheritable, just like the other Numemon, you get blocker, which definitely comes up to help out with your defense stances when you go for some certain situations. Then we got the brand new superstar right here, which is Numemon X, and a really fantastic card which lets you Digivolve for 0 on top of Numemon because it's the X Antibody version. Otherwise, you Digivolve for 2 on top of any regular black level 3. It gives you that floating capability. As long as you got Numemon or X Antibody underneath it, whenever it gets deleted, you get to play a Numemon from your trash. And by doing so, it always keeps your board afloat, which is going to be really crucial to this particular deck. And its inheritable does exactly the same thing, so then you always don't have to worry when your Numemons get removed, because they'll always keep coming back. That's it for our level 4s. Now let's talk about level 5s, where we switch gears with our color, because as we transition into Monzaemon, which is mainly a yellow level 5 that we play in the deck, don't worry, this guy can Digivolve on top of any Numemon in its name for a 3 cost effectively. It has that on play effect, letting you put Numemon from your trash underneath it to gain 2 memory, effectively making a 5 cost hard play. And with its secondary effect, which is both on play and when Digivolving, giving your opponent sec -1 and 3000 DP as well, can help remove smaller bodies or also control the flow of the game a little bit to prevent them from attacking you as aggressively. And then with its inheritable is security +1, as long as the Digimon on top of it is a Monzaemon or Numemon in its name. Then moving on, we got 2 copies of Numemon Monzaemon from BT15, which also has both on play and when Digivolving effect, which mainly lets you trash a Numemon from your hand, so then you can de-Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon. But aside from that, this is a card that you mainly want to hard play instead, to utilize its secondary effect to on play by preventing your opponent's 5 cost or less Digimon from attacking a player for an entire turn. Otherwise, just like the other Monzaemon you saw earlier with its inheritable, security +1 to give more aggression and damage to the overall combos too. Then with the brand new edition, we also got 4 copies of Monzaemon X, which can Digivolve on top of any Monzaemon in its name. Therefore, Wolver Monzaemon works as well for 0 cost. And when Digivolving, if a card with Monzaemon or X Antibody is its name, you get to play a Numemon or level 3 Digimon from your hand for free. And this is where the secondary effect synergizes greatly with the first one, just because all turns once per turn when you play a Digimon via an effect, you minus 2000 DP to one of your opponent's Digimon for every Digimon that you control, including its until the end of their turn. The wider you go, the bigger body you're able to remove, which gives you that fantastic control aspect that this deck really needs to get rid of your opponent's Digimon. That's it for level 5s. Now let's talk about our level 6s. Of course, the mega version of all Numemons here. We certainly have to play 3 copies of Platinum Numemon. It has that on-play and when digivolving effect. By trashing one card with Numemon, you get to gain 2 memory back, which effectively makes it a 1-cost digivolve, or sometimes a free +2 memory out of nowhere if you played it via an effect. It also has the on deletion effect, which lets you play a Numemon or Monzaemon that's level 5 or lower back from your trash for free, so they can actually continue to synergize and loop these combos and continue to flow over and over again with this guy right here, which is really crucial to later combos, which I'll show you guys and talk about more as well. Then I like to include 1 copy of Shin Monzaemon, which can digivolve for 4 costs on top of any Numemon or Monzaemon in its name. Otherwise, you have to pay 5 on top of a yellow level 5. It has that when digivolving effect by putting everything that's level 3 to the top of the owner's security stack. Afterwards, anything that's level 4 or higher than your opponent's side of the board gains minus 3000 DP and security -1 until the end of their turn. Now, you want to be mindful when you're playing this card. Just because you do flood the board with a lot of level 3 rookies, you want to make sure that you get rid of them and swing of them to get a lot of value before you play this card, unless you really plan to actually recover a ton and need yourself to have more security because you're running low in order to do so. It also has a when attacking effect by trashing a Numemon within its sources to send one of your opponent's Digimon to the bottom of the security face down, which is an absolutely great removal tool for the deck. Then I'm also playing 2 copies of Venusmon, just a lot of synergy when it comes to security minusing on the opponent's board with the blanket effect, also preventing from using any when digivolving, when attacking effects, or preventing anything from attacking into her. When you synergize anything with security -1, it's just really good for great control, and yeah, one of the best yellow cards out there, which is perfectly suited for this deck too. And then last but not least, to round off all the Digimon and level 7s, I'm running 1-in-1 copies of the Ruin Mode and Death X, just really generic strong staple cards that this deck can get access to into both. Death X to clear whiteboards, Ruin Mode to also clear whiteboards, but also remove Digimon as well at the same time to really help seal and sort of like shut down the game state against your opponents, which is always really good when it comes to those situations when you utilize these guys. That's it for all of our Digimon. Now let's talk about our Tamers. I'm running 4 copies of Satsuki just to mainly give ourselves additional memory every turn as long as the opponent controls a Digimon. Otherwise, she's really great for mind linking with our Numemon or Monzaemons to give it jamming and reboot at the same time. Jamming to help us swing safely into security and chip away the opponents to deal damage without having to be worried about being deleted. And it also keeps it really safe by rebooting it so it's actually not threatened by attacks during the opponent's turn, which is always really good. And yeah, Satsuki is definitely a tamer that you want to see as much as possible in this deck. Then I'm also running 2 copies of Louis as my secondary tamer. Like I talked about how important Ukomon is, Louis does essentially the same thing, letting you push out game memory and lots of long-term value as soon as you see it, because you continuously hatch eggs, digivolve into your rookies, and it can surprise and give you extra attack, which is almost like Nimi for the deck, which is always really good to help finish games. And then last but not least, I'm running 1 copy of X Antibody Protoform, just a really fantastic card letting us digivolve into Monzaemon X specifically, or even Numemon X, and make sure that it has the X antibody source underneath to utilize the maximum value of all of its effects, which is always good. And it gives us the defensive application. If our Digimon's ever threatened board, we get to get something back from the sources, cycle back some cards, and put this in the top of the security, and we can keep using this over and over again, which I absolutely love it in this deck too. All right, tech choices. Let's talk about other cards that you guys can also consider adding into this deck. The ST15 Agumon is actually pretty fantastic too, just because it gives you additional memory to work with. And if you ever digivolve on top of it, you get access to its inheritable that when a attack is redirect, you get to gain a memory. Doesn't come as often, but really it's just an additional rookie other than just the Floodgate ones that you can also be running. Then another one is Chikurimon. This one actually synergizes really nicely alongside with Shin Monzaemon, just because you can set this guy up early, and then when you go into Shin Monzaemon, you immediately put all your Chikurimons into the top of your security, and effectively they become bombs that continuously de-digivolve your opponent's Digimon, which is absolutely fantastic when it comes to that. So that's another really great option for rookie as well. And then of course there's also the newer Garurumon, which has the role name effectively just like the other one, which is always treated as a Numemon 2. It has the on play and on deletion effect to give your opponent security -1 by trashing a card that has Numemon or Sukamon in its name. And you can continuously to do this, especially with its inheritable as well, to give you further control which is always nice to have, which really synergizes too. Then for some really spicy stuff, you guys can also include a Numemon Ace in this deck in particular, because you can blast Digivolve on top of Monzaemon or Monzaemon X just to bounce your opponent's level 5 Digimon, and also being able to delete your opponent's Digimon with the highest level when it's deleted as well. But keep in mind, there is ace overflow when it comes to this card, but definitely comes in clutch situations to surprise your opponents. Another tamer that you guys can also be running is Digimon Emperor. This card gives you a bit more draw power for the deck as well, but mainly slows down the opponent's play when they attempt to push up with any rookies, which actually comes up very effectively, especially when it comes to the mirror match. Then let's talk about some searching options. You guys can definitely be playing Black Memory Boost or Defense Training. Just keep in mind that you are playing quite a handful of yellow Digimon cards with your Monzaemon, Monzaemon X, and Venusmon, which can kind of bottom deck some of these important pieces and cards. I would argue that Black Memory Boost would be a little bit better, just because you want to be mindful when it comes to Defense Training that you can only Digivolve into a Black Digimon in particular, whereas Black Memory Boost will immediately give you additional 2 memory to work with. So yeah. That's usually what my suggestion is when it comes to playing these searching option staples for this particular deck. And then Cooties Kick, Numemon's signature move, so you can gain on deletion, gain 3 memory as well, cannot be blocked as well. Really, really good. Nice surprise clutch card for sure, and security effect is just fantastic because it lets you play more Numemons essentially for free. Then for more additional removal options, you certainly can include Heaven's Judgment. As we go into our level 5s and 6s, they are yellow, so we can fulfill the color requirements fairly easily, and especially when we build a wide board with multiple colored Digimon, we can be able to basically wipe out the opponent's board or take out one big strong Digimon all in one go is always a really, really good card for the deck too. Alright, combos and how to play the all-new Numemon deck. Let's talk about the hand that you want to look for when it comes to your mulligan. Certainly your level 3s, because you can Digivolve immediately into your egg and cycle for cards. Otherwise, it's also going to be your 3-cost cards. Your Numemon, your Garrymon, these are going to be your draw power as well as search power cards of the deck. And otherwise, then you want to see Satsuki and Louis, because they will always constantly give you value for the rest of the game and help you turbo. The card that you really want to try and look and find to mulligan for usually would be the Ukomon, just because it's just so much value, especially when you're going first. You do want to go first with this deck, particularly just because you can make your first attack and you just try to rookie rush down your opponent as much as you can while controlling the board at the same time. So of course, you see your Ukomon, you just go and hatch, push it up the next turn, and you immediately hatch out another egg, gain a memory, and that's when you can Digivolve into your secondary rookie and continue to repeat and push out turn after turn. Now, I mentioned earlier when it comes to the game plan with your Churumons and your Chikurimons, these are the cards that you sort of just want to keep it on the battle area to floodgate against your opponents and know your opponent's matchup and what they really try to achieve. And having these cards to stop them from getting into their game plan, your Ukomon is going to continue to give you more value. And if you ever Digivolve outside, then you can just give yourself more draw power with Sunamon, because the follow-up game plan then later on is to play your Numemons or your Garrymons, and then eventually you want to be seeing your Numemon X. By Digivolving your Numemon X always on top of a Numemon, you guarantee yourself more draw power. And the longer the stays when it comes to these floodgates and Ukomon, the more value you're going to be able to get. But really crucial important part is that you need to make sure that you're taking down your opponent's security all at the same time. Matchup knowledge comes in a huge play when it comes to this, because then you want to know what your opponent's going to do if they are going to remove these rookies, because if they are, then might as well just go ahead and attack and chip away the opponent's security. You want to chip them low enough so they can keep continuing this game plan and attack, and then that's how you win games very quickly with this deck. Otherwise, of course, you see your Satsukis, but if you play your other Numemon, you know, one of the favorite combos I like is to, you know, play this one, tuck a Satsuki underneath, and then immediately Digivolve Numemon X underneath it. Now you're getting a lot of value. You can swing jamming. If it doesn't have jamming, or if you went into this Numemon, you swing, for example, especially when it comes to Garrymon, that's usually the more value one. So you swing with it. If it gets deleted, you get to play one back. You get to play this one, or this one, whichever you desire, which is always going to be really good. And eventually, you want to get into your level 5s, but you're not really trying to climb throughout. You're trying to chip away your opponent's security. Keep in mind, you need to attack. The more you can attack, the faster you can win. But when it comes to these cards, these are really great control aspects to Digivolve upon into, to sort of like control the board, control the game, and set up your defenses in the mid stages of the game. by getting into Monzaemon X eventually, you can play your Numemons back as well, and the wider board you have, the stronger body that you can remove on your opponent's side as well at the same time. And these are when the Monzaemon comes in clutch, because with the inheritables, with Monzaemon X, that's when you want to chip away with AK 2 checks. But instead of just doing AK 2 checks with the risk, if you had Satsuki, you get to mind link it underneath, so then you check for AK 2 checks with jamming, and if you keep Satsuki mind link underneath afterwards, you get to reboot during your opponent's turn, and you already have a blocker set up on the board, which is always fantastic as well. Aside from that, cards you want to be trashing away with your Garemon, usually when you have opportunities to trash a card from your hand, would be actually your Platinum Numemon. Rarely you would Digivolve into it, but you can if you want to, which is not too bad. But by setting up in the trash, with Numemon X, if it ever gets deleted, you can actually play Platinum Numemon back. And by playing Platinum Numemon back, you get to effectively gain 2 memory off of it by trashing another sort of Numemon that you have from your hand and continue cycling for that combo, and it gives you continuous floating capabilities for that particular resource, which is always really, really good. That's why sometimes when you hard play your Monzaemon by tucking underneath Numemon X underneath, this is also fantastic. Playing it for 5 costs, minus 3,000 to something, minus security to something as well, and then you bridge onto here like this. And if this guy ever gets deleted, Platinum Numemon continues to come back. Platinum Numemon will continue to deal damage, swing and attack with it as much as can. If it gets deleted, that's when you get to bring back these guys again. Numemon tucking underneath Numemon X for free. So effectively you're gonna gain another 2 memory off of it, and then you repeat these combos, which is absolutely insane and really, really cool and fun to play. That's why in some situations, if you need to, then you will go into Venusmon to control the board even further, depending on what the game state looks like. Now, of course, when it comes to your Numemon X, as well as your Monzaemon X, you're always not gonna have the luxury to Digivolve on top of the, pure versions. So then you want to utilize their effects as much as you can, and this is when you get to use Proto Form here. If you had a Chumon that's not doing too much, you get to Digivolve into your Numemon X here and tuck it underneath, and then it still gets that full value floating capability it still does. Same goes for if you had a regular Numemon. If you go for a Proto Form, you can go into Monzaemon X here, putting it underneath, and you still get the full value once again. And I absolutely love the recursion of Proto Form gives you access to whenever of your Digimon will be threatened, because by grabbing something back, such as a Numemon, putting it back to the top of your security as well, which is always going to be really good. Then of course, like I mentioned, all your rest of your other level 6s and your 7s just depends on what clutch situations that you need to get into them and sort of continue to control the board further if you really need to steal the game that way. Otherwise, eventually, sometimes you can also surprise your opponents with a Louis out of nowhere, because effectively if you play Louis and you have an Ukomon, you push it out, you gain a memory, you gain another memory with Ukomon. Effectively, it's going to be a 1-cost Digivolve type of thing, 1-cost play, and then you basically swing for game and they can't even see it sometimes, which is really, really clutch. And I absolutely love how insanely quick this deck can actually win games, but also being able to control the board at the same time. Be sure to watch this video right here, right now to learn more and see this deck in action as well. And if you guys haven't done so yet, make sure to get your awesome merch on the AVAULTstore.com right now as well. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. Stay tuned for more Numemon and Monzaemon updates. And this is AVAULT signing out.